want to start off this video by giving a huge shout out to these two YouTubers. Without them, I would have never had the strength to be able to do this. There's a reason why a lot of people use the term trans mafia. It can get pretty scary. It can get very violent. It doesn't take much to get unhinged. And I have to admit that these two YouTubers made it a bit more of a fun video. I'm gonna just say right now that this is not going to be a fun video. You are going to be triggered by this. And if you're not triggered, well, I think we would make very good friends. I would love to talk to you some more, actually. So, here we go. My hot takes on the trans community. Inclusion by exclusion. Now, what do I mean by this? I remember in the beginning, there was just one pride flag that everybody used. The rainbow flag. However, it was considered not inclusive enough, so we gotta put on a separate space for people of color. But oh no, it looks like this isn't inclusive enough either. So they had to chop off a little section away to include the trans people. But oh no, that isn't inclusive enough again. What about the intersex people? Well, we gotta create a separate space for them. You can call me a dreamer, you could call me naive, you can call me a whole bunch of things, but honestly, I think the main goal here is to just get rid of all these labels and just be people. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a bigger fan of the original pride flag. Why? Because it was inclusive. It included everybody. Gay, asexual, transgender, people of color, intersex people. It included everybody. You didn't have to chop up all these sections to explicitly say that, okay, these people are included. And even on top of that, let's just kind of talk a little bit about social media as well. Even within the trans community, there's like 20 different subsects. You got the people that have realized they were trans from a very young age. Those that transitioned in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. Trans people that believe in religion, trans people that don't. But yet notice that they're all trans, but yet they all want to have their own separate community so that they can be more inclusive. Something wrong here. Hating on people that look straight or are straight. There are just two major problems I have with this. First off, the general mentality I get from the trans community is it's very much a community built on a mutual hate for everybody that does not belong to them. And yet at the same time, they also claim that the people that hate them are doing the same thing. You gotta break the cycle here. And on top of that, you want lawmakers to be able to pass laws that are in your favor, or you at least want other people at your protest. You're cutting off quite a large chunk of people by saying, yeah, if you're straight, you can't be part of this group. We want nothing to do with you. And even on top of that, let's go for, say, people that are bi or in a polyamorous relationship. On the surface, they'll probably appear straight. And so if they go into queer spaces, like, say, a pride event, there's going to be a whole bunch of people that are just like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here. You don't belong here. And yet, once again, this is exactly what they're blaming other people for doing to them. Look in the mirror. Like what you like. I don't think it is anybody's responsibility to tell you what you can like and what you can dislike. Let's go back to the 70s and 80s with a very similar situation as I have here. There was a very famous director and actor named Woody Allen. A lot of people didn't like him because he married his 12-year-old daughter. But yet, People can move past him being a horrible person because they loved his movies. I feel like we've at least gotten to a point where it's kind of similar here, but there's just so many people that it's just like, oh, well, if you like anything by this author, then you are an awful person and you must be tied to the post, get 30 lashes, and if you still think that you can enjoy J.K. Rowling's work, then we're going to throw stones at you until you agree with us. The Trans Mafia. I don't agree. Right. This is where I have seen probably the worst humanity has to offer. I like to think a little differently. I at least want to ask, hey, what did you put in this Kool-Aid before I take a sip? But yet, these are very controversial stands to take. And if you say these in the right spaces, you're going to be immediately pounded with death threats, being called a Nazi, being called transphobic, homophobic, xenophobic, hydrophobic. Yeah, because of course you hate water because of this. If you can be entitled to your opinion, I want to be entitled to mine. And we don't have to agree. Okay? Can we just get to a point where we just acknowledge what each other's opinions are, agree with it or disagree with it, but not have to attack a person because they have said opinion? Immediately canceling things that aren't perfect. I'm surprised you really buy anything anymore, because everybody has issues. Everybody has skeletons in their closet. Perhaps a hate or a love for a specific group of people. Or probably the most common example was somebody working for said company 80 years ago used the N-word. Or used some other slur because, hey, it was considered right and proper back then. But no, we can't buy from them. They're racist, they're homophobic, they're xenophobic, they're hydrophobic. They just have all these names. If you don't like their product, then just don't buy the product, but don't blame the company because of something that one person may or may not have done. Now, you may have noticed all throughout these examples, there's been a lot of name calling. Well, unfortunately, that seems to be the way of it. It was always a very popular way to win an argument, is you basically demonize the person, and because they're a demon, they're not allowed to argue anymore because they're a being of pure evil. They can't have any good in them. And resort to name calling. You're a first grader. No. You're a kindergartner. Because at least a first grader would just kind of be like, hey, you know, that's not right. Be gay. Do crimes. No. Being gay does not give you the excuse to just ravage buildings, to steal, to apply bodily harm to somebody, to kill someone, to torture somebody. No. You are an awful human person if you say that being gay can justify all that. Let me put it in an example that perhaps you may understand. So, there's been a lot of people throughout the years that have used religion to justify massive acts of violence. We consider this a bad thing. But yet, if a gay person uses it to justify their acts of violence, that's okay. While I'm on this subject, yes, there were probably law enforcement that were pretty brutal to those in the queer community back in the day. That was 70 years ago. Things can change, people can change. Do not blame a profession because of something that some guy may or may not have did 70 years ago. Activism for views. It'd probably be easy just to blame this all on the existence of TikTok. But in all honesty, it's probably just more of a deeper issue than that. There's just a lot of people out there that will just make short little videos that it's just like, yeah, I got fired from the job because I wasn't pretty enough. Yeah, I got misgendered again. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm pretty. People have to love me. No, People do not have to love you. You have to give them a reason why. Love is a two-way street. You gotta have respect on both sides, and if there's only respect on one side, then that sounds a bit more like a hostile takeover than a loving relationship. I think one of the other big things about this as well is I've seen quite a few examples of people that are just flying off the handle because the pronouns that another person said was wrong. It seems to me that whenever this happens, it's clearly with a person that has a very difficult time with English. They're probably still trying to figure out the whole pronoun thing. Give people a chance. If you assume the worst in people, that's exactly what you're going to get. But if you assume the best in people, then hey, there is hope. And this last one I have here, this is more of a personal one. Well, I guess most of what I've had here is my personal opinion, but it's more about what I've seen in the trans community. This is more about how I'm seen inside and outside of the trans community. There's so many people that say, you're valid. You're so brave for doing what you're doing. You are a real woman. You can keep your bravery, you can keep your validity, you can keep your license to tell me that I am a real woman. That is not the reason why I am transitioning. I don't want that kind of validation. I want to see myself as a woman. And yeah, I will admit, I do want the average stranger on the street, whenever they pass me by, to see me as a woman as well. But if I don't really get it, or heck, if somebody even misgenders me, I kind of put it up to the same category as like being cut off in traffic. What am I going to do? Make a blog post about it? What's more, I'm going to tell this guy downtown and maybe try to have it out with them afterwards? No. I'm just going to get angry for a little bit, and then it'll go away. It feels good to be able to say all this. This is something that's just been stacking up within me for years because, well, speaking out about such things in the past, well, I've even just kind of alluded to one or two of these points. I've gotten a lot of death threats. Now that I realize that I'm allowed to be critical about such things, it's nice to be able to get all this utter black hate that's just been in my heart for like the past probably about 4 years at this point, maybe even longer than that. So if you made it to the end of this video, like I said, I feel like we could be pretty good friends. And I do also want to say that you don't have to agree with me. I am perfectly fine with that. I don't have to agree with you. But at the end of the day, I want both of us to acknowledge that we are human and that each of our opinions is just as valid as the last. Big thank you to these two YouTubers for giving me the strength to finally be able to do this. It's a relief. And on top of that, I always think back to when I was in school. I remember there was one teacher that said, don't be afraid to ask questions, because it may be possible that somebody else in this class wanted to ask the same question, but did not have the bravery to ask it. And it could be possible that maybe me and laying this all out on the line, perhaps there are other people that share this opinion, and now they feel like they don't have to hide anymore, to walk on the various eggshells that the trans community has laid a bit of a snare for. Well, now I would give my usual salutation of be yourself no matter who that is, but, well, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of contradicted that within this video, but, well, maybe I'll just kind of say this. Live the best life that you can, just as long as it doesn't interfere with somebody else's.